There's a saying that goes, home is where the heart is. And for a family that's returned to South Africa after spending nearly 20 years living abroad, returning home to this distinctly South African view means that they may decide to never leave home again. South African homes have really come into their own over the last few decades. Generic imitations have made way for modern masterpieces and character-filled spaces. Finest Homes explores some of these creations, talking to the visionaries that's bringing them to life. Join us as we explore some of these spaces, showcasing the interior design, architecture, and landscape design. Today's feature home sits in harmony with the beautiful surrounds of Malpas, a West Coast town known for its quaint seaside village feel, but hosts impressive architecture and uninterrupted views of an iconic landmark, Table Mountain. Having returned back to South Africa after many years abroad, the owners found an open plot on the edge of the waters where they could envision their new family home. Hi! The architect tasked with designing this dream home and bringing it to life is Renato Graca of G2 Architects. G2 is a Cape Town-based architectural practice that prides itself on delivering projects that are imaginatively conceived, well-designed, and respond entirely to client objectives and aspirations. With a body of work that encapsulates modern architecture and that is brought to life with an understanding of layered materials, I can't wait to see what Renato and his team created here.
Welcome.
So good to be here. Good to see
too.
you. Oh. Renato, upon arrival, one is met with strong geometry, clean lines, and contemporary finishes, a far cry from the traditional aesthetics of a beach cottage. What was your brief from the client for this project?
So the clients, originally South African, left after their studies to go live in Canada for 2 decades. Their kids were born there, and after a while of just living in the cold and the snow, they decided to come back to South Africa and make Cape Town home. They found this plot. It's at the end of a cul-de-sac in Malpas, which is a little seaside village just outside Cape Town, and it's got this postcard view of the mountain, and it's right on the beach. It was really the reason why they purchased the plot. The brief to us was to create a family home, 3 or 4 bedrooms, and it needed to be as wind protected as possible with as much dialogue to the exterior as possible.
At first glance, your use of external elements reads as wonderfully layered. How did you decide on these elements and why?
Layering is exactly the word I would use to describe that. So being a plot at the end of a cul-de-sac, privacy is an issue, and we wanted to maximize the beach views but not the street views. So clients wanted privacy from the street but maximize the beach view. So really what we did was we filtered and layered the exterior public space to the interior private space. The materials we've selected really are inspired by the West Coast. We've got rock cladding that is actually called Malmesbury Shale, which is a mere 20 kilometers from here. The timber, which is inspired by driftwood. So we've got timber that is going to mature and age naturally as if it's on the beach. Wow. And then your white walls, which are a traditional West Coast vernacular. The form of the building, like you say, is completely not what happens in the West Coast, but they wanted a modern aesthetic, but we still wanted to tie that aesthetic to its location, which is the West Coast.
Location is not underrated, and I'm sure that there were a few challenges when it came to the positioning of the house. How did the site guide you when it came to that?
So we were given literally the access point on the east and the beach on the west. So the house is a west-facing plot. A little bit of it is to the north, but it faces directly onto neighbors. The majority to the south faces onto the view, which is fantastic because it allowed us to open up and maximize those windows because it's not getting direct light. The west is a bit of an issue, so we've created screens for that horizontal afternoon light, but the clients seem to love that. They're beach goers. He's a kite surfer. We created access directly from the home to the beach with an outdoor shower and an equipment store for his gear. So it's really just get home and change, get onto the beach, do your surfing, come home, shower, have your dinner. It really lends itself to that lifestyle.
So what I'm picking up is wind could have been a little bit of a challenge.
The biggest challenge on this site. They wanted an outdoor space that was as wind-free as possible. Anyone who's been to or lived in Cape Town knows that unless you're living in Clifton, that's super difficult to achieve. So that really became the departure point for the design. What we wanted is to that wind-free space to be in the center of the site, and basically the design radiated outwards from that point. Should we take a look?
I would love to. Let's do it. As you make your way through the main entrance, a house that seems almost closed off to the outside world flips the switch and opens up to an airy and light-filled space. Flooded with natural light thanks to the clever placement of windows, a sense of serenity guides you through the house and draws the eye to the magnificent mountain and sea views. Renato, what a pleasant surprise! Stepping into this space that has such an abundance of light and generous proportions, and of course, breathtaking views. I'm guessing that glass played a crucial role in the design of this house.
100%. If you want a house on the beach, you want the view. How else are you going to connect it without actually having something that separates you from the elements, but gives you that visual connection, which is glass. Glass is also an awesome material because it requires some cleaning, but it doesn't require maintenance. So I'm glad you touched on light. I always say light is a free building material. So with the windows that we've used vertically as access points and views, we've also used them as skylights. So it's a connection point between the pavilions, but it's a skylight that connects the staircase, and the light throughout the day changes. So you get this different sense in the space at every different time of year and day.
Talk me through the flow of this gorgeous home.
So remember, the client's brief to us was a wind-free outdoor entertainment space, which radiated and set off the concept for the plan. So we ended up with a H-shaped plan. So with that H-shaped plan, what we did is we kept the public spaces at the bottom, entertainment, guests and living, and all the private spaces at the top, which is your sleeping.
Inviting the outdoors in through these big, lovely windows, how did you link the exterior materials with the interior?
So linking the indoors to the outdoors, to be honest with you, we did very little. Visually, there is no doubt that it's connected, but we made sure that the doors are positioned in such a way that when they slide open, they slide either into cavities or completely out the way, so that the flow is just there and it's present. The materials that we chose for the deck are timber that can age gracefully with nature and the sun. It doesn't require any maintenance, and if you kind of look at it from the inside out, you can see that the timber just really melts away into the beach and matches the same color scheme.
I love how you've zoned different areas with different floor levels and clever lighting. How do you really make use of such a beautiful big space in a very productive way?
So how we managed to actually carve this internal pavilion, the living pavilion, into various zones. So we separated the kitchen by raising it. So there's one step difference between the kitchen and the living and dining space, kind of like a symphony and the conductor at his pulpit.
Yes.
With the ceiling plane, we've dropped it a bit. With the floor plane, we've raised it a little bit. And the floor material actually changes from the entrance into this pavilion. We've also used the pendant lights, which were specifically chosen to be round so that it is against the 90 degrees of the architecture and softens the whole thing. And the materials that we selected also are inspired by the fact that the house is on the beach. So timber, concrete, stone, and continuing the white from the exterior on the interior. This timber, which is oak, it's rough sawn and it speaks to the same palette and material as the floors, and we use it as a backdrop and splashback, so it's actually the focal point of this pavilion. The client populates things and changes things throughout the year. So it's nice, it's not static, and it's a living wall that is actually your focal point when you're in this space.
Everything we've talked about is really fantastic in summer, but what happens in winter?
Good question. So we've placed a fireplace, a natural wood-burning fireplace, centrally located in the pavilion so that it radiates the heat outwards, and it's positioned on that side so that it doesn't interfere with the view of the beach. It works like a charm in winter. It heats the whole space up. Being an open plan space, the heat actually transfers upstairs to the bedrooms. So what's great is they turn it on in the afternoon, and by the time they go to bed, the bedrooms are warm.
Well, I'll have to come back in winter to experience that too then.
With pleasure.
Stay with us as after the break, we continue the conversation and explore the rest of this magnificent seafront house. In today's episode of Finest Homes, we're visiting a beach house on the dunes of the West Coast. A house that is seemingly closed off to the street, but that opens up to reveal a light-filled contemporary home with incredible sea and mountain views. Designed by architect Renato Graca of G2 Architects, it is a house that boasts multiple layers, not only in aesthetics, but also in its practicality. Before the break, we explored the exterior of this Malpas home, talking design briefs, materials, and functionality. Step inside, and the house welcomes you with abundant light, muted tones, and living spaces designed for entertaining. A signature design of G2 is their cantilevered and steel cord staircases. Floating without restraint, the staircase allows light to filter through, being functional without overpowering. Minimal and pleasing to the eye, it leads you to the upstairs bedrooms and spacious pajama lounge situated upstairs. Adjacent to the kitchen and main living area is the braai area. It's a space that plays a double role, an indoor entertainment space protected from the elements, yet open the stackable doors and it's exposed to the outside, giving the feeling of an outdoor entertainment area, perfect for the warmer months. Renato, it is no secret that South Africans love to entertain. So I'm not surprised that there is a braai area right here in the middle of this beautiful space. How did you incorporate the essence of entertainment in this free-flowing space?
So it was important to have the spaces connect visually but also physically to each other. So we've got the sliding doors that all just slide back, so you've got this central pavilion that connects to the living pavilion. By placing the braai here, it could ensure that the clients could literally braai all year round. Yes. When you're done braaiing in winter, it turns into a fireplace. So it becomes quite a warm space, and the entertainment aspect of the house really is all outwards towards the beach. Have you noticed that whilst we're sitting here, there's absolutely no memory of the street?
Yes. Wow. I love the use of timber in this entire space. From the wooden floors to the sliding screenings to the awnings. How were you able to marry aesthetic and functionality?
So to be honest with you, the decision behind needing to use timber is because it's a house on the beach. It's exposed to the wind, the sun, the rain, and that sea salt air that just comes in off the ocean. Timber is the one material that will weather well, and it will cope with all of that. So that really became the dictator behind the material palette to the house. It is a hard-wearing material, it looks great. The palette that we selected is one that will weather well with time. And you can see with this deck, it just flows to the exterior. Again, trying to blur those lines between inside and outside.
Renato, I did realize or notice that there are no TVs downstairs.
100%. So remember, this is the public realm, this is the living realm. We had a television planned initially, but we actually decided to replace it upstairs in this connecting PJ lounge, which separates the kids' bedrooms from the parents' bedroom. The other thing is really, when this is your view, I don't really think you'd want a TV.
Come on, this is cinematic as it is.
100%. And a day like today with all these kite surfers, that really is an episode of something, right?
Absolutely. With expansive views, you won't find a TV in any of the main living areas. The solution was to have a discreet nook at the end of the ground floor passage, where the homeowners can enjoy a quick catch-up on the news or their favorite series while still being close to the entertainment areas. So take me through the flow of the upstairs area, bathrooms, bedrooms. What were some of your key considerations?
So we wanted the master bedroom to have the best view. So that is on the beach facing side of it. And the kids' bedrooms basically to the south, and on the side that's split by the PJ lounge, which doubles up as a bit of a cinema room. Nice. We've also allowed for a laundry room upstairs. Coming from Canada, I think the clients were kind of used to that layout. It actually works really well, and it's something we've implemented on other projects. Laundry gets taken off in the en-suites of the bedroom, so there's no need for it to come downstairs if it can all just stay upstairs.
I love that. Really must make a mental note for my next home.
Awesome.
Really cool, really cool. Any other considerations when it came to the bathrooms and the bedrooms?
We had a very clear brief from the clients on the bathrooms. They didn't like the idea of tiles, so they wanted to have as few grouting joints as possible. So the tiles that we've actually used in the bathrooms are the biggest ones you can actually get, 3 meters long. So they actually go from floor to ceiling. And you'll notice that there are very few joints, and they're specifically for that purpose of cleaning and maintenance and just hygiene, really.
Very cool. Lastly, Renato, having created some of the finest homes, what does luxury mean to you in your designs?
Luxury to me would really be about simplicity and how that's achieved. We try and achieve that through the use of light, maximizing the views, and to really maximize privacy too. Leonardo da Vinci did say that simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. So in trying to create homes that border on minimalism but are just warm enough to feel cozy, it really is about offering a refuge to this really busy world we live in.
And what a refuge this is. This is exquisite.
Yeah.
I mean, I could get used to this. After the break, we meet up with Yvonne Kramer of Jade and Ginger to discuss her take on a beach house design scheme. In today's episode of Finest Homes, we visited a contemporary seafront house on the dunes of Malpas. Brought to life by G-Squared architects Renato Graca, took us through the brief and execution of this light-filled home. A house that enjoys pared-back aesthetics with a clear consideration of practicality. It says family first, while playing to the breathtaking views of the ocean and distant Table Mountain. To explore the diversity that can come from beach house interiors, we sat down with interior designer Yvonne Kramer of Jade and Ginger Interior Design and Decor to get her take on this seaside design scheme. A self-confessed romantic, Yvonne always aims to create homes and spaces for people to love. Her design style can be described as a mixture of styles and periods without being a slave to trends. She incorporates comfort and sensuality with whimsy and a dash of drama, always returning to a sense of balance and harmony.
People always talk about, give me a beach house look. And for me, a beach house is not a style in itself. It kind of needs a qualifier. Is it a boho beach house? Is it Palm Springs? Is it a rustic Arniston cottage? So it needs a little bit of description. So I prefer to say, let's describe a coastal look. A coastal look is defined by a very relaxed feeling, giving you that vibe of a holiday mood. The recipe is to create a connection to the outside. So it's bringing in the brightness of the sun from a summer holiday. It's the feeling of the sand underfoot. It's all the moody tones of rolling oceans and crispy white waves. So today I'm going to show you how to do a coastal look, but with a happy, energizing mood. So I'm going to call it the happy place beach house. And so often South Africans put it all in neutrals. And we can understand why. It's because a beach house needs to feel relaxed and calming, and neutrals do give you that calmness. But I think often a beach house is not the place that you spend, it's not your main home. So again, you can have a bit more fun with it, charge it up with some energizing, playful colors. So I like to start with white walls and then start with the bigger items and think which are my areas that I'm going to keep in natural fibers and textures. So when we're talking about naturals, we're talking about having a timber element. It could be on your wood floor, it could be your coffee table, but we don't want death by timber and neutrals either. So choose again which hero elements in your palette are going to be your timber, offset against white. Other natural elements to bring in is, for example, the texture underfoot. So your rugs and carpets, have them jute, have them wool. Again, these are things that bring in the feeling and the colors of the outside. Another key element of this look is bringing in organic shapes. So again, bringing the outside in, emulating pebbles, for example. So it might be in a coffee table, it might be the roundness of a bedside lamp or a table lamp. It could be in your pendants. So bring the outside in and have elements of softer curves that give you that relaxed look. For my happy beach house, the key element is color. And people can often be afraid of color, but I like to say use color in surprising places. So if you've got your main palette as white and clean and soothing, You could paint a few doors, for example, in an acid yellow or bright coral, or even keep the doors white, but it's just the little edge that is a pop of color, so that when one opens it, it's like, oh, okay, that's interesting. So don't limit color to scatters. Don't be afraid. Choose some key elements, like, for example, your sofa. Give it some pattern and color, and I've put these together, for example, to show you that a lovely cotton in blues and pattern will bring life into the room just on your sofa. Let's talk hard finishes. So let's start from the ground up. In a beach house, there's a lot of wide open spaces, and again, your attention is always on the view outside, lots of windows. So I would choose a calming palette for the floor, and some exciting elements are terrazzo, for example, which gives you that kind of pebbly look, or if you can afford to do some natural stone. The beauty of using natural stone is you get lots of different finishes. You can sandblast it, so it feels like sort of soft soap under your skin. It just has a little bit more upkeep in terms of having to seal it every couple of years, and of course is a bit more of a high ticket item. But otherwise it could be marble look tiles or even a concrete terrazzo look, which may be cold, but then you layer up with lots of rugs. We're talking window treatments in a beach house. So again, going back to that very relaxed, using natural fibers, everybody thinks linen. And I'd like to show you how linen falls. So it really gives you that relaxed, slightly washed and unironed feeling. But if you're going to go for linen curtains, you almost want to puddle them on the floor because you don't want them to look too stiff. And the other thing to know is you need a good backing because the sun eats into natural fibers. And if you were going to go for white, it is going to turn yellow over time. But with linen, you can really be adventurous with color, and it really softens the look. But that's for curtaining. What is seeing a great revival at the moment is things like bamboo. And you have them in options of whites to natural tones in various different finishes. And then of course also, if you want softness, Roman blinds are a great place to be playful because you can bring in stripes, you can add interesting borders and a different way of bringing in your color. So they can be neutral or whites or off-whites, but then bring in bands of color as a pop and a surprise. So we're talking about other ways to introduce color, and I want to give you a few ideas. So if you can have mainly white walls in certain areas, I've mentioned using doors as another area to paint. And if you're going to use doors, perhaps sliding doors, think about a layering of color. So you might have navy doors against a softer blue wall, and you're layering up tone on tone, again reminding you of all the different colors of the ocean and the surrounds. Or key pieces of furniture can also inject a spark of color and energy into a room. For example, it might be the sideboard or the console at the entrance table in a beautiful Chinese lacquer or viridian green, or even a slightly acid or worn mustard, for example. All of these bring a bit of warmth and uplift the energy into the room. And again, we can also think about smalls. So it might be in your ginger jars or your vases, of course your scatters, but think about a layering and scattering of these colors, or these like injections of colors, all around the house, so they're not stagnated into just one area. So for example, in your living area, it might be on the sofa, but as you move to the breakfast room, it's the dining chairs which have fretwork and you've painted in a beautiful powder blue. So My Happy Place Beach House really is a great opportunity to bring in wallpaper, and aside from wallpapering a whole room, it's also fun if you've got a limited budget to use wallpaper decal, which means, for example, using a roll but cutting it into a shape or a large circle so it becomes an artwork in itself. You could even frame pieces of wallpaper panels, and this becomes your artwork in a space. But to bring color again, think of Palm Beach, think of a breakfast room. You know, you want to wake up and that's your energized space. It might be the pajama lounge, for example, or one of the other open spaces. You might even put stripes on a ceiling, you know, just to feel in a beach house tent, you know, on having a picnic on the beach.
That's it for this week. Do join us again next week for another Finest Home.